Thanks for joining me today. Today I'm going to walk you through how I made this Schitt's Creek inspired key holder and tips for you to make your own at home. I started off with some sheets of wood that I got cut at Home Depot. You can use plaques from Hobby Lobby or Michael's or any craft store, really. I opted to get wood from Home Depot because I had some other projects to work on as well. So I had to cut my own sheets. And right now you're seeing me measure out 4x6 aluminum sign plaques that I make myself. I've got sublimation ink and a heat press. So I was measuring out the best way to cut my wood to get as many 4x6 plaques as I could. But for your project, I'd recommend a 4x6 image and then giving yourself about half an inch to an inch on each side so that you have kind of some extra backing to it. It's not that hard to cut your own plaques, and it's nice if you go to Lowe's or Home Depot because they'll cut it for you. This was the first time I've been to Home Depot where they wanted to charge me $1 per cut. And the guy said it was because there's a lot of people who do crafts who are trying to force them to cut all their tiny pieces of wood for them. And they had to start charging for it because it was happening so often. So here's me measuring out my lines, where I want my plaque to go and where I want my cuts to go. And again, I just gave myself an extra half an inch on the sides, and then I gave myself an inch at the bottom because I wanted the option to maybe like put my name at the bottom or my family's last name and established date. Once I did my cuts, then I grabbed my orbital sander and I started sanding things down. I never really understood why people liked these orbital sanders before I started using them, and they do such a good job in comparison to other kinds of sanders. I've had the other types where the sandpaper rips really easy, it comes off, but the orbital sander, it's made really nice, and it does a really good job at sanding down my wood plaques when I make them. After things good and sanded and you've cleaned up all the dust, then you can go about painting it or staining it. I'm a big fan of buying whatever stains are on clearance. I got this can of stain at a store called Ollie's for $4.99, which is a good deal for it, and it's called Roanoke Brown. And I just really like the shade. It looks very pretty. It's a nice dark brown wood stain. But you could use acrylic paints, you could use whatever you would like, spray paints. I kind of thought this plaque would be very pretty if it had a gold spray paint, maybe around the edges. But yeah, like pick whatever you would like to use, what matches your home decor. You don't have to use that stain if you don't want to. You can make it bright and colorful with lots of acrylic paints. Just make sure you use some kind of a clear coat at the end after your paint has dried. That way it protects your paint job and keeps it from coming off if you need to like dust it or wipe it down for some reason. And you could use anything from Mod Podge to spray paint, clear coats to polyacrylic or polyurethane, whatever is cheapest and whatever is handy. And sometimes we have mishaps, and I accidentally knocked over my stain and spilled most of the can everywhere, and I had to take about an hour trying to figure out how to clean it up without getting covered in it. But for the remainder of this project, if my fingers look brown, it's because I was cleaning up stain. Instead of panicking, I just grabbed some other pieces of wood that I had, and I just started dabbing up stain from the workbench and putting it on my plaques. Doing the best that I could to use up some of it before I had to sop it up and throw away the trash. Getting back to making my sign with stained brown fingers, I bought this case of hooks at Lowe's. It was maybe like $7, but it's a nice variety of different sized hooks. And I used eye hooks at the top and normal hooks at the bottom. And to get the hooks in, I usually just use like a thumbtack or something to make a tiny hole, and then it screws in a lot easier instead of just trying to push the hook in and screw it. And I just stood there for a minute and planned things out, how I wanted it to look, where I wanted my hooks to go. So to put my image onto the plaque, I used Type Bond wood glue, and I just put it all over the back of my aluminum sign and pressed it onto the wood. After I put the plaque down, I put pressure on it, and glue usually comes out the sides, and I'll clean that up and get everything situated the way that I want, cleaned up. And then I usually will find something kind of heavy, and I'll put it on top of the plaque to weight down the sign until it dries. For this project, I only wanted 4 hooks at the bottom. I didn't feel like I needed any more than that, but I think it could comfortably fit up to 5 hooks if you space them out evenly. And here's my finished key holder, and I wanted to take pictures and videos of how it looked, so I hung it on my barn door, which is my favorite place to take pictures, and it turned out exactly how I wanted it to. It looks really nice, and I'm happy to hang it in my house. Thanks for watching.